Give me 1 second. I have to relaunch the game because my controller stopped working with it. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. All right. Yeah, if I leave my controller off for too long, then the game stops communicating with it. Oh, let me just do this first. Snooze it so we have 2 full hours of ad-free viewing and 1 full hour of no pre-roll ads. And here we go. Hello everyone, welcome back to more 428 Shibuya Scramble. Last time, what we did was, we got 2 endings. We got, we got 2 to be continues. We got Maria's. She was held up by the, guy with the cane, the caned gunman assassin guy, under the suspicion that she's Hitomi. And we got Achi's ending, where Achi and Hitomi met up with, what's her name? Hello. How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. So, I'm live on YouTube. Yeah, I had some issues setting up the YouTube stream earlier. So hopefully that's all set. So, yeah, we also met up with Kanon, the guy, the lady, excuse me. And we also got a bad ending with Osawa. So, let's go ahead and, go to Minori Kawa. Let's see what he's up to. No! Oh yeah, his battery died. I forgot. Minori Kawa's cry of despair echoed throughout the cafe. His laptop monitor stared back at him, black and empty. Don't you die on me, buddy! He jabbed his finger sharply at the screen, as if that's gonna do anything. Minori Tech. But the computer gave no response, looking well and truly dead. What the hell? Minori Kawa pounded his fist on the table. This would be a worst-case scenario even if he weren't desperately pressed for time. Guess I'll just have to write by hand then. He rummaged around inside his bag and pulled out a notebook. I can still do this, he shouted, doing his best to psych himself up for the task ahead. I will still do this. Ah, excuse me. Sir? The waitress appeared timidly behind him. What? Minori Kawa snapped, his pen still flying across the paper. Sir, if you could please quiet down. My damn computer just broke. I'm allowed a scream or two. Minori Kawa was in no state of mind to be quiet. If it weren't for the deadline he was racing to meet, he'd probably have gone on screaming until he passed out. Your computer is broken, you say? The waitress peered at the monitor. Yeah, look! It just suddenly stopped displaying anything. Could it be that, the battery is just dead? Minori Kawa sat bolt upright. That's it! The waitress flinched as Minori Kawa's finger jabbed toward her face. I hadn't considered that possibility. Hey, let me plug it in somewhere. There's an outlet right here. There, sir. She pointed at an outlet by Minorikawa's feet, making no attempt to hide her exasperation. Minorikawa plugged in the power cable, and the monitor sprang to life as normal. So, now that that's sorted, would you please be quiet, sir? Don't talk to me. You're interfering with my writing. Minorikawa's fingers had already begun dancing across his keyboard. With a sigh, the waitress disappeared back into the kitchen. Oh yeah, now we're talking. His fingers picked up speed as he went about touch typing. The act of typing on a keyboard without looking at the keys. The aspiration of computer novices everywhere. The typical method involves placing the index fingers on the F and J keys, with the middle ring and pinky fingers resting on the A and S and D or K, L and semicolon keys to either side, from which all other keys are easily reached. With a practice, a touch typist can instinctively hit the correct key every time without looking. Something feels weird. Hold on. Yeah, no, you're correct. I don't know. I don't know why something feels weird, but let's just go with it. The pros and cons of surveillance cameras. Proprietor of outdated electronics shop oversees high-tech camera system. Bedlam at bogus weight loss drink sales demo. Bankrupted organizer remains undiscouraged. Now Minorikawa's spirits were riding high. His writing rolled along at a brisk pace. Sir? It was the waitress again, her voice yanking Minorikawa right out of his soaring mood. Sir? Now what? Has the President of the United States agreed to give me a one-on-one interview? The waitress's eyes went wide with confusion. Huh? Because unless it's something that important, do not speak to me right now. But she was undeterred. Sir, if you could just be a little quieter. Minorikawa's fingers ceased their rattling across the keys. Just what sound do you have a problem with? All I've been doing is writing a copy. Well, for the last while, you've been talking while you write, sir. Talking? Oh shit. Minorikawa tilted his head in confusion. Yes, sir, you've been talking about an electronics store and some bogus weight loss drink. I can assume that's what you're writing about. You're saying I've been narrating my copy aloud while writing it? That's right, sir. Other customers sitting nearby were openly snickering. Well, so what? He snapped. He was red in the face now. You should all be delighted that you get to hear what I'm writing before the magazine goes to print. Well, actually, one of our customers has been complaining. Oh, shit. Complaining? Of all the nerve. Who was it? Where are they? Minorikawa scanned the other patrons, many of whom were unsuccessfully trying to hide their laughter. It was me. It was the grumpy guy. It was the grumpy older fellow who'd been making a scene earlier. Bogus diet fads, peeping security cameras. Reminds me of that sleazy tabloid 4-star general gossip I hate so much. Oh ho, you sure seem to know a lot about it for something you hate so much. The man's face twisted up with scorn. Your behavior is bothering everyone in here, he said. Do you not understand that? No, I don't. Yes, a reporter who writes nothing but nonsense prefers nonsense in everything he does. Minorikawa could feel his blood boiling. What was that? Go on, say that again. Oh, gladly. Nonsense, filth. Cod swallop. Flim flam. You bastard! How dare you! Minorikawa stormed over to the man's table. Flim flam indeed. Bogus or insincere content. Few things anger Minorikawa more than reporters using dishonest means to create a story. Having his own work called Flim Flam would naturally make him blow his top. Just who are you calling Flim Flam? The other man stood up and glowered in Minorikawa's face. You utterly lack any manners or sense of decency for starters. I have plenty of manners and decency. I also happen to have a deadline. Bah. As if a flim-flam artist like you has a work ethic. Stop calling me flim-flam. The waitress inserted herself between the two men. Gentlemen, please stop fighting. I demand that you remove this man at once, the older fellow barked. He's the one you should be kicking out, Minorikawa shot back. But now he was ready to go for this guy's throat. Please, the waitress pleaded, both of you return to your seats. She grabbed onto Minorikawa and began to forcibly drag him back to his table. Oh, it's too late for that. Giving into his anger, Minorikawa threw a punch at the troublemaker. Gah! The man dodged nimbly, however. Heh, you're not bad. I'm 6th Dan in judo. You're not bad. I'm 6th Dan in judo. Ah, you should have mentioned that earlier. Minorikawa hastily retreated to his seat. The other man snorted and sat down with a scowl. The needless interruption, just when he'd finally gotten into his writing mode, had all but killed Minorikawa's motivation. He decided he needed to take a breather. He turned to the waitress. One spaghetti Napolitan, please. Spaghetti flavored with tomato ketchup. Napolitan is a corruption of Neapolitan, though the dish itself has no connection to the Italian city of Naples, Napoli. Rather, it originated as a menu item at a hotel in Yokohama shortly after World War II. There is also a spaghetti dish from Nagoya called Milanese, which likewise has no connection to the Italian city of Milan. He might not have a lot of spare time, but working on an empty stomach wouldn't do him any favors. While waiting for his orders to come out, he decided to read back over the copy he'd written so far. Puh! When he looked back at the monitor, the screen was black yet again. Looking down at his feet, he saw that the power cable was now unplugged. Hey, what kind of cafe are you people running here? He shouted. The waitress hurried over, looking combative. Sir, you yanked that out yourself when you stood up earlier. What? A likely story. It's the truth, sir. Minorikawa pointed at one of the customers sitting next to him. Is she telling the truth? Did I really yank my power cord out myself? The man nodded sheepishly. Yeah, well, then that's the outlet's fault for being someplace where it unplugs so easily, Minorikawa squawked. The waitress marched away, head held high. Just make sure that spaghetti's delicious, Minorikawa shouted after her. Do that and I'll consider us even. Oh, and loaded with cheese. Lots of cheese. He plugged the power cable back in, then let out a heavy sigh. In all his writing fervor, he hadn't thought to save his work. Always make sure to save your work to avoid losing data. Honestly, why is it that your computer only seems to freeze when you've forgotten to save your stuff? He was probably going to have to rewrite most of what he'd done. Excuse me. Minorikawa looked up to see a young woman standing there. I'm so sorry, she said. About my father. She gave a tiny bow. Your father? Oh, the rude old man? He's just a little worked up right now. Please don't pay him any mind. So what, you waiting on your boyfriend? Huh? The woman was taken aback. I happened to hear you two arguing earlier. Would have been about 2 hours ago. Oh, I see. An awkward, embarrassed smile came to the woman's face. I thought he was going to ask my father for permission to marry me, so we've been waiting for him, but he hasn't shown up. No, he must be really busy. She cast her eyes down sadly. Minorikawa took a better look at her. She was gorgeous. A woman with her looks wasn't something he saw every day, that was for sure. Say, would you mind taking this... Wait. Say, would you mind talking with me for a bit? He asked. Me? Yeah. I kind of need to turn my mood around in here. Well, okay. At least until my father gets back. The woman cast an anxious look toward the restrooms. What's your name? Rumi. She sat down across from him. Wait a second, aren't you? Minorikawa peered at Rumi's face. One of those twins that was chosen as Miss Midoriyama? Rumi shook her head. That is something... That's a weird connection. No, not me. No? Darn. Didn't think I'd be that lucky. He took a sip of his now cold coffee. I do know the girls you're talking about, though, Rumi said. Minorikawa spat out his coffee in surprise. Rumi squeaked in alarm as the spray splattered her face, but Minorikawa leaned in, unconcerned. You mean it? Craziest fucking spit take in the world. You really know them? Yes, Rumi replied. You're talking about the Osawa twins, right? She got out a handkerchief and wiped the coffee from her face as she spoke. Osawa, huh? Minorikawa glanced down at the project proposal on the table. Sexy squared. Twins shared top prize at local university beauty contest. Midoriyama Academy. Maria and Hitomi Osawa. Yes, that's it. The Osawa twins. I actually won Miss Midoriyama myself a few years ago. This year I served as one of the judges. Minorikawa adopted a self-satisfied pose. Guess I really was born under the right sign to be a freelancer. The leads just come to me. Sure, Rumi muttered. Okay, let's talk basics then. Tell me what you know about these girls. Well, I don't really know them personally. Rumi continued to dab at the coffee on her face. But now that you ask, I do remember hearing that they'd entered the contest separately. Wait, separately? Now Minorikawa was a bit confused. Yes, that's right. I'd assumed they'd enter as a pair, but apparently not. I wonder why. I mean, they're twins. Don't they look alike? Wear the same clothes? Do everything together? Say the same things at the same time and stuff? Rumi chuckled and shook her head. No, not at all. Besides, Oh, I think I know why. Headphones are being weird. Hold on. Technical difficulty. That together. Do that. Okay, there we go. No, not at all. Besides, the two aren't identical. They're fraternal Somehow I don't believe that. Twins who were born at the same time from two eggs that were fertilized separately. Fraternal twins do not share the same genetic information. They can differ in such characteristics as sex and blood type, though there are cases of fraternal twins resembling one another almost as... Oh. Uh-huh. Okay. Almost as closely as identical twins. Maria and Hitomi Osawa happen to look very closely alike, but they do not have the same blood type. Very convenient. Although, at a glance, they do look very similar. Still, how should I put this? They both give off a very different impression. Oh? Now that sounds interesting. Mind explaining what you mean? Minorikawa opened his memo pad. I talked to them briefly after the award ceremony. The older sister struck me as really energetic, but the younger one was more quiet and reserved. Minorikawa's investigative senses were tingling. I wouldn't figure a shy girl would want to enter a campus beauty contest. I suppose not, no. Yeah. I don't suppose you've got anything juicier? Minorikawa asked. Rumi frowned. Would you like to just go ask them yourself? She said. They don't live very far from here. Whoa, hold the phone. Minorikawa could hardly believe what had just fallen into his lap. The advance info in the project proposal had mentioned the girls were students at Midoriyama, but hadn't given an actual address. If he could talk to them directly, now that would be pay dirt. You know where they live? Well, not exactly. I just heard that they lived in Shoto. Aha! Shoto! That wasn't far away. A car or a motorcycle could get there in about 10 minutes. It'd be quicker than going to Midoriyama Academy, and he'd be able to meet with the girls themselves. Minorikawa flashed a quick look toward the restroom. It looked like Rumi's father had just gotten back. Sorry, she said. I should be going. No problem. And thank you. Rumi gave him a quick nod, then hurried back to her seat. Minorikawa grabbed the directory from the public phone and flipped through the pages. To his surprise, there were only 5 listings for the name Osawa with addresses in Shoto. There was neither a Maria nor a Hitomi, but he hadn't expected there to be. He needed to find their parents. Wasting no time, he called up the first Osawa on the list. Oh! Bingo! Minorikawa couldn't help but pump his fist in excitement. He'd gotten the right place on the first try. Way to go, me! He committed the house number listed in the phone book to memory. Just then, the waitress reappeared with a disgruntled expression and Minorikawa's order of spaghetti Napolitan. Here you are, sir. Oh! The pasta was piled high with an impressive amount of grated cheese. That's not enough. It looked almost like a miniature mountain of snow. You did say lots of cheese, sir, the waitress told him. She set down a canister of cheese and a bottle of Tabasco. A sauce made by the US-based Michelini Company, consisting of hot peppers, grain vinegar, and rock salt. Known for its distinctive spiciness, it can make spaghetti and pizza quite tasty with the addition of just a few drops. Tabasco also goes pretty well with ramen and curry. Recommended for times when flavor is lacking a little punch. However, even 1 drop may be too much for those who can't handle spicy things. It has been claimed that Tabasco was first imported to Japan by a certain well-known former pro wrestler. But this story is untrue. Do any of you know do any of you know what story they're referring to? I know at least 2 people who might know. One who would probably know more than the other. Either Fish or Snack Time would know about this story. Maybe. I don't see Snack Time in the viewer list, so I'll just say... Fisher, do you know if this is true? Fish, is this true? Oh, this looks good, Minorikawa exclaimed. He twirled some spaghetti up with his fork and shoved it into his mouth. The slightly sour sweetness of the ketchup blended perfectly with the mellow flavor of the cheese. Oh. Oh, that is tasty. It's fine. Either Snack Time will join, or... Oh, well, there we go. Antonio Inoki. Okay, there we go. Oh, that is tasty. There was nothing like this, satisfying grub to lift the spirits. He turned back to his laptop, still wolfing down the spaghetti. All right, we're back in action. Let's do this. Yet again, he unthinkingly blurted his words aloud as he slipped back into writing mode. I've got this. I've got this. With ketchup smeared around his mouth, he set his fingers tapping away at the keys. The waitress let out another groan of dismay. Huh? You say something? Minorikawa glanced in her direction, but the waitress faked a smile. No, sir. I don't think so. Yeah? Well, then go away. You're distracting me. The moment he looked away, she clenched her fist in indignation. Hmm? Nothing, sir. Good luck with your work, sir. I don't need luck. I've got this. Eyes jumping back and forth between pasta and his computer, Minorikawa got to work on his copy once more. Before long, he was oblivious to every sound in the cafe around him. When he finally snapped out of writing mode, he glanced at his watch. It was 2:20. Almost time for him to head to his next interview. Better get a move on. Kimizuka's taxi came by just as Minorikawa was hurrying out of the cafe. Well, what a pleasant surprise, Minorikawa called out. Nice timing, my man. Kimizuka's startled look quickly vanished behind an expression of professional resignation. Do you need a ride, sir? You know it, Minorikawa replied. First head to Shoto. After that, I'll need to get to Sakura Gaoka. As he cast his gaze out at the sights of the city, Minorikawa mulled over his plan for the next part of the day. First, he'd interview the Miss Midoriyama girls, then he'd meet with the head of that theater troupe. In order to leave himself enough time to write his copy, that meant... I'd like to get this all wrapped up in 20 minutes, he said. Can you make that happen? Kimizuka flashed a grin. That will incur a special fare, sir. Oh, special, Minorikawa said it as he got settled in his seat. I love that word. Kimizuka stepped on the gas. Shibuya was a town of contrasts. It was a town of young people, unpretentious, energetic. The Scramble intersection and Center Guy perfectly conveyed that vibrancy. However, if one turned right at the 109 building and headed down Bunkamura Dori, the town's whole atmosphere changed. Shoto was one of Shibuya's, indeed one of Tokyo's, most upscale residential districts. Wherever one looked, there were stately manor houses giving off an imposing air, sending the message that this was no place for the common folk. Right here's fine. Minorikawa directed Kimizuka to pull over. Wait here for me. I'll be right back. Hopping out of the taxi, he checked the nameplates of the nearby homes. Here we go. He'd spotted a nameplate that read Osawa. Kenji Osawa, huh? The name nagged at him somehow. It had been in the back of his mind ever since he'd seen it on the phone book at the cafe. Had he heard it someplace before? He walked up to the gate and pressed the button for the intercom. Even the little chime it made when pressed sounded elegant. Minorikawa waited, but there was no response. He looked at his watch. It was 2:30 now. His interview with Shinosuke Orai of the Wandering Angels was supposed to have started already. With help from Shinichi Bando, Mondo was able to get out of his apartment. Then, when all the players had finally assembled, the troupe proceeded with one last rehearsal before showtime. But again, tragedy struck. Mondo came down with food poisoning after eating his lunch. He was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, and the Angels were once again lacking an actor for the key role of Shido. Orai was on the verge of panic. Finally, however, he came up with a solution. Novice actor Takuya Amo, age 31, would take on the part. Still, he wanted to meet with the twins first if it was possible. He decided to wait a little bit longer. Just 5 more minutes. The front door opened. A A grim-looking man emerged, leading another man in handcuffs. Minorikawa was standing in their way. "Pardon us," the serious-looking fellow said. He gave Minorikawa a curt bow as he passed by. Minorikawa smelled the distinct odor of a scoop. "Hey, does that guy live here?" he asked. The man ignored him and kept moving, but Minorikawa followed. He couldn't let this opportunity pass him by. "Hey, wait up! Is that Mr. Osawa?" With a grimace, the man pushed Minorikawa aside and hurried his handcuffed prisoner along. For a moment, Minorikawa wondered if he should keep after them, but he decided against it. Whatever was going on here, he doubted he'd be able to get an interview with the twin girls right now. This had all been an unfortunate waste of time. He had no real choice but to head along to his next interview. A few minutes later, the rear tires skidded sharply as the cab came to a stop beside a different curb. The trip from Shoto to the theater in Sakuragaoka had taken almost no time at all. It seems that there's like there's things that even you guys haven't seen in this game. That's fun. "Here we are, sir," Kimizuka announced. Wow, that was fast. Still, Minorikawa was at least 5 minutes behind schedule. He hoped he'd still be able to get in the interview with Ori. Oh, shit. Well, nothing left to do but jump. To Kano. Kuze's voice came in over the wireless as the car came out onto Meiji-dori. "We've identified the owner of the condominium. It's Mamoru Tanaka. He's a colleague of Kenji Osawa." "What?" Kano squawked. This was an unexpected twist. "Kajiwara confirms that Tanaka left the Osawa residence just after 2 o'clock. No word on his movement since then. It's possible he headed to his private condo where the attaché case is slated to end up. Any officer who runs across Tanaka is to apprehend him on sight." Kuze cut the connection. "This mastermind you've been chasing," Kano asked. "Is it Tanaka?" Stanley didn't reply. "Fine, never mind. I just wish I could know if Tateno is safe." "Still worried about that traitor, huh?" So Stanley could ignore all of his questions, but still remembers to make snide remarks. "Talking about Tateno's the only thing that gets a reaction out of you, isn't it?" Kano snorted. "What makes you so certain he can't be a traitor?" "Tateno just isn't like that." "That's not an answer," Stanley scoffed. "All right. I've watched the man work for years. I know him. He has no reason to betray the Force." "You've watched him work, huh? What about his private life, then? Do you know all about that, too? He hasn't had money trouble or anything like that?" Kano felt his blood starting to boil. "I don't care what you think," he said. "I trust Detective Tateno." "Trust him? On what basis?" "I don't need any basis to have faith in someone," Kano snapped. Without any basis in fact, it's just plain sentimentality," Stanley said. "There's no reason or logic to it." A thin smile came to his face. "Be they friends or family, you never really know other people. The only person you can trust is yourself." Kano had no response for such an emotionless statement. He looked away. He and Stanley were just plain incompatible. It seemed like no amount of talking would let them get through to one another. Never take anything at face value, Kano. You start trusting too much, you're basically as good as dead. Kano just stared out the window. The Shibuya precinct came into view. Tanaka's condo wasn't much further now. They were outside of Tanaka's condo now. Over there, Stanley said, keeping his voice down. Across the street was one of the foreign syndicate members walking briskly, the attaché case clutched at his side. I'm making the arrest. Kano, wait! Stanley exclaimed. Kano heard him loud and clear, but he had no intention of stopping. He approached the criminal at full speed, then leapt to tackle him around the waist. The two men fell into the pavement in a tangled heap. The collision sent the attaché case flying. Kano's eyes tracked the case for a moment too long. He was caught off guard when the man threw a punch at him. The blow caught him right in the jaw, snapping his head back. For a moment, Kano saw stars. As he shook off the impact, the man sprang to his feet and sprinted away in the direction of Stanley's car. Stanley! Kano shouted. Get the case! Stanley headed for the attaché case while Kano went after the suspect. Suddenly, the fleeing man skidded to a stop. Several cars had pulled across the road ahead, and detectives were pouring out of them. His escape route cut off, the criminal resigned himself to capture. While Kano helped make the arrest, several of the other detectives broke into Tanaka's condo. Oh, shit. Stanley, meanwhile, was carefully inspecting the exterior of the attaché case. He'd already opened it, but it was stuffed with bundles of banknotes. The 50 million yen ransom was back in the police hands. This is a decoy, the American muttered under his breath. I wonder where... His words trailed off, but Kano had heard them. What did you expect? The detective demanded. Samples of that new drug in there? As usual, Stanley gave no reply. The look on his face, however, told Kano he'd been right on the mark. Some of the backup team emerged from Tanaka's condo. Kano turned to them, feeling a sudden urge of anxiety for Maria. What's the situation in there? He asked. They had told him they'd found no one in Tanaka's rooms, so the hostage's status remained unknown and the main culprit had evaded capture. This case hadn't been solved. In fact, it was still unfolding in the worst way conceivable. And still, Stanley remained focused on the attaché case, pondering it with a thoughtful expression. Look, Kano told him, I'm going to request that I be returned to my normal duties. Maria still needs to be rescued, and I still need to find out what happened to Hitomi and Detective Tateno. For once, Stanley actually responded. Hitomi? Yes, that's it. Makes perfect sense that they'd have her carry it. Huh? What do you mean? This whole attaché case relay was a fake-out. Oh, slow down, Kano said, wishing he could calm himself with his words. Explain what you're talking about. Somehow the kidnappers made contact with Kenji Osawa and got him to have Hitomi carry the drug, separate from the ransom. Wait, you're saying that they had Hitomi bring them the drug? Stanley nodded. The case handoffs were a sort of camouflage, a way for them to keep the police distracted from their real goal. Kano nodded. It had indeed felt like the case relay was a decoy, an attempt to buy time. If this syndicate were after something else entirely, that would explain why so many of their actions had appeared to make no sense. So, Kano asked, what sort of drug is this? Why would they go to such lengths to get their hands on it? It's an antiviral, Stanley replied after some hesitation. A way to cure people with a very particular virus. What virus are we talking about? It's called SHIBUYA. Kano never heard of it. Still, he could imagine the possibilities. Suppose this SHIBUYA was something like the Ebola virus. Discovered in Sudan in 1976. Infection causes Ebola hemorrhagic fever, resulting in a high fever and massive bleeding throughout the body. At present, there is no vaccine to prevent infection, nor any drug to cure the disease after it manifests. Or perhaps HIV. Human immunodeficiency virus. HIV destroys the cells that are essential for regulating cell-mediated immunity, considerably reducing immune response. This effect can result in infections that would ordinarily be fought off, easily developing into serious illnesses. There are various treatments, but as of yet, nothing that will eradicate the virus completely. Even the all-too-familiar influenza. An infectious disease caused by the influenza virus. Symptoms were similar to that of the common cold, but are much more severe, occasionally resulting in death. There are three main types of the virus, A, B, and C, with A and B causing the typical run of illness in humans. Neuraminidase. Wait. I'm gonna get Google to pronounce that. Neuraminidase. I was pronouncing it like a Japanese word. Neuraminidase is recommended as an effective inhibitor, but this merely alleviates the symptoms and is not a complete cure. There were medicines that could treat all of those diseases, but nothing that could cure them completely. Any drug that could do that would be worth vast sums of money. Kano, do you have any means of getting in touch with Mr. Osawa? Yes, I know one of the detectives stationed at his home. Get in check with him ASAP. Find out whether or not he gave the antiviral to Hitomi. Kano suppressed a scowl. It looked like he wasn't done assisting Stanley yet. He got out his cell phone and dialed up Kajiwara. Kajiwara picked up promptly. Kano, what's going on? Could I speak with Mr. Osawa? I suppose that'd be alright. What for, though? There's something I need to confirm for him. There's something I need him to confirm for me. It's an emergency. Alright. Just make sure not to tell him anything about the investigation. Sure thing. After a while, a man's hoarse voice came over the line. Osawa speaking. Can I help you? This is Detective Kano from the Shibuya precinct. Time is critical, so I need to just cut to the chase here. Kano took a deep breath. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter, Hitomi? Osawa let out a gasp. Uh-oh. What are you talking about? Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter, Hitomi? Osawa let out a gasp. What are you talking about? I'm the one asking the questions here, Mr. Osawa. Did you give that antiviral drug to your daughter, Hitomi? I'm not sure I understand the question. Osawa's voice trembled as he spoke. Kano was sure he'd hit the nail right on the head. I know what this syndicate is really after, Osawa. It's the virus. Osawa remained silent. Let's jump back there. Osawa was so startled that what are you talking about? The antiviral research was top secret, so how did some detective know about it? I'm the one asking questions here, Mr. Osawa. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter, Tomi? Not sure I understand the question. I know what the syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. Osawa's mind went blank when he heard what Kano had said next. He could give no reply. Mr. Osawa? The detective... Oh, wait. That's still the bad end. I know what this syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. Ah, shit. I'm flubbing it. I'm flubbing it. I know what this syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. Osawa's mind went blank when he heard what Kano said next. He could give no reply. Mr. Osawa? The detective continued after a moment. Is everything all right? Without really thinking, Osawa hung up. Osawa staggered out of the living room. He needed to be alone. To his surprise, Kajiwara didn't try to stop him. Shutting his study door behind him, he dropped onto his sofa, then grabbed three times his normal dosage of stomach pills. There was no water in the room, so he had to swallow them dry. Detective Kano's words echoed in his mind. I know what this syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. It's Hitomi. There was only one reason they could be after Hitomi. He broke out in a cold sweat as he began to understand what this kidnapping was really about. It had all started 6 days earlier. It was April 22nd. Osawa had just returned from the United States the day before. He was in the midst of some routine work at the General Research Lab when his cell phone rang. The LCD display showed an unlisted caller. With some hesitation, Osawa picked up. Hello? Is this Kenji Osawa? The caller was using a... Wait. Is this Kenji Osawa? The caller was using a voice modulator, a type of device or software used to make one's voice sound different. Changing a voice to the point of making a voice print or tone analysis impossible represents a major challenge. To be able to do so in real time requires major financial and technological resources. Osawa raised an eyebrow. Yes?
Go and analyze Hitomi's blood.
Her blood?
If you don't, she's going to die.
With that, the caller hung up. There was an intensity behind this that made Osawa sure it wasn't some prank call. He had Hitomi come into the lab ASAP. He told Hitomi he wanted a sample of her blood for an experiment. She agreed, suspecting nothing. He placed some of the blood he'd drawn into a glass slide, then added some fluorescein, type of fluorescent dye. A yellow-green liquid, a type of fluorescent dye, chiefly used in preparing specimens for viewing under a fluorescent microscope, but it has other uses as well, such as a diagnostic reagent administered in eye exams. Its highest volume use is on St. Patrick's Day, when massive amounts of fluorescein are used to dye the Chicago River green. Fluorescent dye is a type of dye that causes the dyed substance to emit higher wavelength fluorescent light when illuminated with a certain other type of light. Such dyes can reveal fine details when used on specimens viewing through a fluorescent microscope. Placing the slide under a fluorescent microscope, he took a look. It can't be. Osawa could hardly believe his eyes. Wriggling under the microscope was the Grim Reaper's sickle itself. There was no mistaking it. Hitomi was infected with the Uwa virus. Trembling, Osawa hurried to his computer. He opened the Uwa virus folder on his monitor. Within were images showing the stages of the virus's propagation. He double-clicked to magnify the first image. The Reaper's sickles were interlocked with one another. He clicked on the next image. After further propagation, the Uwa virus looked less like a sickle, more like a sort of insectoid larva. Next was the final image. Interlocked into a single mass, the Uwa virus vaguely resembled a sinister, many-petaled sunflower. It took a mere 12 hours for the pathogen to develop to this point and begin its hideous destruction of the human body. Hitomi's infection sample was still in the state shown in the first image. There was still a chance to save her. Osawa slumped back in his chair, huddling in on himself. He had no choice. There was only one way to save Hitomi. He would have to administer the nearly completed antiviral. Using the antiviral without official approval was a grievous violation of company policy. Acting against company rules and regulations, Akoshi Pharmaceutical prohibits leaking work-related information to outsiders. In the case of a major violation, not only can the violator be fired, but the company may also seek indemnities. Still, Osawa didn't have time to get the higher-ups to approve a clinical trial. He might be severely punished for it, but this was his only option. His daughter's life was at stake. But there was also another, even bigger hurdle in his way. The antiviral drug was stored in the deepest recesses of the biochemical research building. A high-intensity X-ray scanner was set up at the entrance to the storage area. This made it impossible for him to take research materials out. Type of radiation, also referred to as Röntgen rays, with a shorter wavelength than UV light but a longer wavelength than gamma rays. Because X-rays can penetrate many objects with little absorption or scattering, they can be used to create images of internal structures. Hospitals, for example, use X-ray technology to examine the insides of patients' bodies, while security personnel use it to scan luggage at airports and to search for bombs. Well, if he couldn't get the antiviral out of there, he'd just have to bring Hitomi in. A course of action quickly took shape in his mind. First, he'd need to slip out of the general research building. He would then head to the biochemical research facility and show his ID card to the guard at the front gate. Identification card. Many facilities carry out highly classified research assign different levels of security clearance to individual researchers, and only those with suitable clearance, as indicated by their ID cards, are admitted to restricted areas. Development of more advanced technologies, such as electronic ID tags, are replacing older barcode-type entry cards. After passing through a lobby under the watchful gaze of several security cameras, he'd reach an elevator at the end of the hall that went directly to the storage section. This elevator required an ID card scan to operate. It's pre-rendered. Does give me good Metroid Prime vibes, kinda. It would take about 20 seconds to get down to the first basement level and arrive at the entrance to the storage area. Finding an excuse to get Hitomi that far ought to be doable. If the security guard got suspicious, Osawa could say it was for a top-secret hematology experiment, and the guard would probably believe him. The problem was what came after. This thing looked just straight out of like 999. It looks like the dead a little bit. It looks like it could be a dead. Getting into the storage area itself required fingerprint authentication from both Osawa and Tanaka. This meant that he couldn't possibly get to the antiviral without Tanaka's cooperation. Desperate with uncertainty, Osawa called up Tanaka. He frantically explained the situation. Understood, Tanaka replied. We need to get her this drug as soon as possible. If the company finds out about this, you'll be held accountable for violation of corporate policy along with me. Are you sure you're okay with that? What are you talking about? Tomi's life is more important than company policy. Tanaka spoke without hesitation. Osawa felt an immense surge of gratitude for his assistant. And I have to say, I'm deeply moved by your determination, Tanaka added. Moved? Whatever for? You really are worried about Hitomi. Osawa's gratitude faded. What are you talking about? Of course I am. My apologies. It's just that putting your career on the line for something so personal is... It's what? It's not like me? No. Well, yes. I'm sorry. Now Tanaka's voice was colored with embarrassment. Just what sort of person do you think I am? Osawa resisted the urge to ask the question out loud. A short time later, Osawa and Tanaka stood before the door to the secure storage area. The security guard had let them in without the slightest suspicion. Osawa pressed his index finger to the fingerprint scanner. Accepted. He realized he'd been holding his breath as his authorization finally went through. Half a moment later, Tanaka touched his own finger to the scanner plate. Accepted. The lock released with an audible clang, and the heavy door opened. Osawa hurried to retrieve the antiviral. He picked up a small vial. As he picked up a small vial, he had a sudden realization. They were finally going to use the drug in a human test. His fatherly wish to cure Hitomi was overlaid by an intense rush of curiosity. The researchers' drive to discover his results. Hurry. I need to hurry. I need to administer the antiviral as soon as possible. Drug delivery system, also known as smart drug delivery. The ability to target a specific region of the body with a specific drug has momentous implications for the future of medicine. DDS technology is currently being tested extensively around the world. In saving his daughter's life, Osawa had proven the value of his research. If he had been asked which made him happier, he would have been hard-pressed to give an answer. Afterwards, he asked Hitomi where she could have become infected, but she had no idea. He explained the need for secrecy and strictly forbade her telling anyone else what had happened. Now, a week had passed since Osawa gave the drug to Hitomi. He'd been conducting checks and had discovered that the DDS had not broken down, but remained in Hitomi's bloodstream. Extracting the DDS was a simple matter, requiring just a small blood sample from around the nape of the neck. The DDS tends to linger in the nape of the neck because of the lymph nodes located there. These lymph nodes identify viruses that invade the body as foreign substances to be attacked, but they are not always able to overcome particularly powerful pathogens. In such cases, the virus propagates rapidly inside of them. Once the patient has been treated, the antiviral will seek out the virus and accumulate there as well. The DDS itself was simply the delivery system for the antiviral drug. Residual amounts of the antiviral itself stayed behind within her cells. The materials used to create the DDS must, as a matter of course, cause minimal to no harm to the human body. Ideally, rather than accumulate inside the body, DDS substances should be either digested and absorbed or excreted. Because the antiviral must remain in the body for as long as the virus is active, however, a very careful balance must be struck between persistence and dissipation. Using the DDS, it was possible to extract those minuscule amounts from cells in a blood sample. It might take considerable time, but a sufficiently detailed analysis could allow for the antiviral drug itself to be reconstructed. Osawa felt a chill as he contemplated the situation. The kidnappers had known how tough security was at the lab, so they'd come up with the idea of using a human vessel to get what they needed from within. By infecting Hitomi with the Uwa virus, they'd ensured that she'd receive the antiviral, that she'd have it in her blood. If Tanaka was working with the kidnappers, that explained why he'd been so cooperative about the fingerprint scanner. Damn it! Osawa shouted. He clutched his head in his hands. Tanaka had been his partner and trusted confidant for years. Osawa refused to believe he'd been betrayed like this. The front door chime sounded. Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara called out. It appears you have a visitor. Could you handle that? Who could it possibly be, now of all times? All right. With a sigh of relief, Osawa dragged himself to his feet. This picture is very liminal. He stumbled warily back to the living room where the investigators were staring at the intercom monitor with concern. The intercom's hidden camera showed a man with an unsettling grin posed intimidatingly outside the front gate. Osawa didn't recognize him. Yes, who is it? He asked guardedly through the intercom. It's Minorikawa. Where might I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa? Oh, you know, here and there. I mean, there's only one Minorikawa, really. Are you playing games with me? I don't have the time for that. Please, just open up. There's no way I'm letting you in, Osawa said. But the nonsensical badgering continued. Look, just hold your horses. I'm here for an interview. You got that? An interview? That's right. It's a piece for 4-Star General Gossip. The name of that magazine brought up an unpleasant memory. That was the gossip rag that had run the article about his political marriage. Wait. This is for one of those kind of articles? What do you mean, those kinds of articles? We're just looking for an interview. The man's tone was both high-handed and belligerent. Like hell you are. I'm not talking to anyone from the gossip. You're not the one I'm here to talk to. I want to interview your twin daughters. My daughters? I understand they won a shared prize for a beauty contest at Midoriyama Academy. If you wouldn't mind my interviewing them, Furious, Osawa cut off the intercom. This was no time to be indulging someone else's nonsense. Hey, what gives? The man was shouting so loud his voice carried past the gate and through the front door. I'm begging out here, on my hands and knees! He wasn't actually on his hands and knees. Osawa could see that clearly through the intercom monitor. If your daughters aren't home, can you at least tell them I want to get in touch with them? Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara said, frowning. This isn't a good time to have someone drawing attention to your home. All right. I'll get rid of him. Osawa hurried out of the house, confronting Minorikawa through the front gate. The journalist had that tenacious look that immediately marked him as a member of the media. Give me your business card, Osawa said. I'll have them get in touch with you later. He took Minorikawa's card, then went right back inside. Back in his study, Osawa tossed Minorikawa's business card into the trash. Unable to think of what else to do, he tried the internet fortune teller again. He got the same, "You're a very work-minded person" result a second time. You don't get over your indifference to the world might start to harbor quite a grudge. My indifference to the world around me, huh? The truth was that, even with his closest companions, even with Tanaka for instance, his relationship had always been strictly a matter of business. He'd never really taken it upon himself to get to know Tanaka as a person. And that was pretty much the case for everyone he knew. He harbored no interest in other people. He had no concern for his fellow man. That made itself abundantly clear when he received a microscope as a birthday present way back in first grade. Even now, he still remembered the shock he'd felt when he'd looked through that lens for the first time. He'd discovered a new, almost infinite world, hidden in the midst of one he'd always thought was too small. By comparison, the real world seemed bland and ugly. Wherever he looked, wherever he went, he had to contend with tedium. It hadn't taken long for him to become more charmed by the world under his microscope than the one around him. It was like a calm, quiet little seaside, a beach where he could just sit and stare out at the waves. He wanted to stay immersed in that world forever and ever. Before he knew it, he was an adult, and then a husband, and then a father. The people around him thought him an odd fellow, but he hadn't let that change the way he lived his life. And this, now, was the result. He hadn't been betrayed by Tanaka. He didn't know Tanaka well enough for that. Find a way to connect more deeply with the people around you and start living a better life before it's too late. Just do that and you're sure to have a wonderful future ahead. Osawa picked up his cell phone and dialed Tanaka's number. I had tried calling him repeatedly and he hadn't gotten through. It was doubtful that he'd pick up. Still, Osawa had to try. Phone rang several times. He listened grimly to the empty mechanical sound, preparing himself for disappointment. What is it? Tanaka's voice sounded coldly in Osawa's ears. The tension was electric. Oh shit. Yeah, he's something else. Like you could describe every single protagonist as there's something else. So this is at 3:35. Yeah, Maria is, well, I mean, Maria is normal, but she's something else compared to like all the other characters. Wait, no, I can probably go here. Wait, actually? Yes, who is it? Oh. Where might I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa? Oh, you know, here and there, you know, okay. I don't have time for that. Please, just open up. There's no way I'm letting you in. Discussion was getting nowhere. Minorikawa decided to take direct approach. Look, just hold your horses. I'm here for an interview. You got that. An interview? Taking the bait. Most folks could hardly resist the word interview. That's right. It's a piece for 4-star general gossip. Wait. This is for one of those kinds of articles? The man sounded angry now. What do you mean, those kinds of articles? I'm just looking for an interview. Like hell you are. I'm not talking to anyone from the gossip. You're not the one I'm here to talk to. I want to interview your twin daughters. My daughters? No parent would deny their children a chance for word of their achievements to spread. Yeah. Hey, what gives? I'm begging out here. He wasn't actually on his hands and knees. The man had a somewhat stricken look on his face. This had to be Kenji Osawa then. Osawa? Yeah, the lighting is very different. It's more vibrant. Now Minorikawa recognized him. This was Kenji Osawa, the preeminent virologist who worked for Akoshi Pharmaceutical. 4-star general gossip ran a scandalous article on him in the past. Minorikawa remembered reading it. He held out his business card and Osawa snatched it from him. The virologist started to head back into his house. Please see that they get back to me, Mr. Osawa, Minorikawa shouted after him. And then he noticed something odd. It was the middle of the afternoon, but every window in the house had its curtains drawn. That, combined with Osawa's demeanor, set off alarm bells in Minorikawa's head. He knew he was onto something, but he couldn't linger at the Osawa residence any longer than he already had. He needed to get to that theater ASAP. He hurried back to the taxi and told Kimizuka to go. A few minutes later, the rear tires skidded sharply as the cab came to a stop beside a different curb. The trip from Shoto had taken no time at all. Here we are. Hmm. Oh, I'm going back way too far. Oh, I can? Wait. It's Hitomi. Osawa remains silent. Mr. Osawa? Is everything alright? The line went dead. Guess that answers that well enough, Kano said as he put his phone away. Now it was clear why the criminals were after Hitomi. He saw an uneasy look on Stanley's face. Something on your mind? Kano asked. Stanley responded with a question of his own. If Hitomi was carrying the antiviral, how were the criminals planning on getting it from her? Kano thought for a moment. While taking her by force at the scramble posed too high a risk, he said. There were nearly 100 detectives there, and they must have guessed there would be. That's why they devised the attaché case relay. They wanted to abduct Hitomi somewhere away from the Dragnet's notice. This was the plan that all the signs seemed to suggest. But still, he added, I wonder how they managed to lead her away from the police protection. A look of revelation crossed Stanley's face. All they needed to do was convince her to go of her own accord. But how? Kano asked. And then it came to him. He thought back to Hitomi's initial contact with Tariq Al-Karawan. Just before he'd taken the attaché case from her, the two had a brief conversation. It was possible Al-Karawan had given Hitomi some form of instructions then. Guess we're back to tracking down Al-Karawan again, huh? Kano could tell from the look in Stanley's eyes that he was on the verge of saying something. Probably some remark about how Teteno had allowed Al-Karawan to run free. Right now, Kano wasn't going to argue the point. After this case was resolved, he discovered what Teteno's real motives were. And once he did, Stanley would eat his words. In the meantime, we can't just wander around looking without any leads, he said. Until we got more intel, let's see what we can do with the security cameras back at the precinct. Numerous monitors shone down on the pair as they entered the Shibuya precinct surveillance room. Each showed an array of faces of individuals somewhere in Shibuya. Kano asked one of the operators to pull up Al-Karawan's data on the screen. By selecting each of the faces on the monitors in turn, they could run comparisons to determine if anyone among them was Al-Karawan. One by one, the operator made his way through the faces. Assuming their target was still in Shibuya, there was a high likelihood that they'd find him. But the minutes ticked past, and there was still no sign of him. Kano's tone grew more and more impatient as he directed the operator's search. Just calm down, Stanley said. He set a hand on Kano's shoulder. Keep wasting your energy when you don't need to. That's just how I do things, Kano replied. I'm energetic because I care. He pointed out another face to the operator. Well, you're setting yourself up for a short life. With a sigh, Stanley sunk into a nearby chair. My brother was like you. The American spoke so quietly that his words were barely audible. 10 minutes later, a man clad in black appeared on one of the monitors. The operator lined up his cursor. The comparison check confirmed that it was Al Karwan. Yes! Kano hissed, pumping his fist. It appeared that their quarry was simply walking around town, calm and composed. Kano radioed in Al Karwan's location to Kuze. All units, intercept the suspect on the double, Kuze ordered. Kano will provide guidance using the surveillance monitors. They saw Al Karwan stop in front of a cigarette vending machine. Was he waiting for someone? Sasayama reporting, I've got eyes on the mutt. Mutt. Perpetrator. Hook. To put someone in cuffs. Dipper. Pickpocket. Wants. Outstanding warrants. Hang paper. To write multiple citations. And other such traditional police jargon. Kano's partner had evidently been nearby. I'm making the arrest, he said. There was a note of courage in Sasayama's voice. He came into view on the monitor, casually walking. Okay. That's good. At some point, he ditched his anime nerd costume for a cat mascot suit. Oh no. Kano muttered. That getup's gonna make Sasayama stand out like a sore thumb. Shoot. The mutt spotted me. I'm going in pursuit. Sasayama slipped out of the camera's view. Whoa! What gives? Let go of me! You're Mr. Yanagashita, right? Look, I'm sorry, but I really do need you to return that costume. The voices came in over the wireless. It sounded like Sasayama was caught up in an argument with someone. Tamayama. Sasayama! Kano shouted as he eyed the monitor. Kano, I need some help here. Requesting emergency backup. The line went dead before Sasayama could finish. Kano didn't have the faintest idea what was going on, but obviously his partner needed him. He rushed out of the precinct. When he arrived on the scene, he saw Sasayama still in the catsuit, caught up in a scuffle with a man he'd never seen before. There was no sign of Al Karwan. Sasayama, what's going on? That's an excellent question, Sasayama replied. The guy just came out of nowhere. He sounded pretty riled up. Sir, I needed to return this costume. My boss was very insistent on that point. The man was panting with exertion, shouting in Sasayama's face. Was he the owner of the suit? What's the deal with that thing, Sasayama? Kano asked. I bought it at a variety store on Center Guy. Figured it'd be a perfect disguise. I didn't steal anything. Sir, I'm telling you, you need to give that back. And I'm telling you, I've got no idea what you're on about. Sasayama stamped his foot. I realize that you're not Mr. Yanagashita. That isn't the issue. I just need you to return that costume. Alright, sure, I'll give it to you. I just need it a little longer, so let go of me. I can't do that, sir. I need you to get out of that suit right now. Yeah, I get that, buddy, but no can do. It's like I told you before. The zipper on this thing's snagged. Oh no, not another one. Kano watched as the argument descended further and further into absurdity. Meanwhile, Al Karwan was getting away. This was ridiculous. He turned to go in pursuit of the suspect. Kano, wait! Sasayama called out. Come on. Help me out of this, man. Help me out, man. Huh? Help me get this thing off. Now really isn't the time for this, Kano replied. I'm going after the suspect. Oh, I get it. You're gonna ditch me here so you can take all the credit for yourself. Oh, what? I was this close to nabbing the guy. That arrest is mine to make. And you know it. It wasn't as though Kano couldn't empathize. If Sasayama hadn't been blindsided by this random stranger, he probably would have caught all Karawan just fine. Alright then, Kano said. He reached for the zipper at the back of the cat suit. But as Sasayama said, the metal fittings were snagged and refused to budge. Hurry up! I'm trying! There wasn't time to do this slowly and carefully. Kano yanked down on the zipper hard. Stop! The stranger shrieked in alarm. Don't be so rough like that. But if I don't, I'll never... You mustn't! If you aren't careful, you'll cause a malfunction. Malfunction? What the hell was this guy talking about? Kano got an ever firmer grip on the zipper and pulled again. Meow. He paused in surprise as Sasayama mewled. What? Again, Sasayama let out a little cry. Except it didn't sound like Sasayama's voice at all. Guys? Sasayama said. There's something making a rumbling noise inside this thing. Oh no. Don't tell me there's a real cat in there. He sounded pretty alarmed. Uh-oh, said the other man. It has started. What has started? His face went pale. What are you talking about? Sasayama demanded. What started? The man hesitated, then seemed to come to a decision. Well, you see, this is no ordinary cat costume. Meaning what exactly? Our shop rented this unit out by mistake. Oh, I had no idea it was anything so horrifying. Not until the boss filled me in a little while ago. What's horrifying? You're not answering the question. The man's gaze grew hollow and distant. Cats, he said. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Sasayama spoke up nervously. Well, yeah, it's a cat. I know that already. No. You're not listening. This is a cat's. Like I said, I already know it's a cat. Anyone can see that just from looking at it. No, not a cat. Cats. Costume as transmission system. Developed by Far East Costume Rentals high-tech department. There was an official corporate notice stating, "This is just a prototype and potentially dangerous, so do not lend it out under any circumstances," but was accidentally rented by mistake. What are you talking about? Costume as transmission system? What the fuck is happening? Oh, this is a nightmare. What the fuck? The meow, the meowing started back up again. With each mew, the sound got faster. Soon it sounded less like a cat and more like some mechanism that was whirring about. There was a sudden, fierce, blinding flash. Space itself began to warp in a roughly 3-meter radius around Sasayama and his costume. Okay, this is a bad ending. A moment later, Kano and the others had vanished. What the fuck, man? Kano, Sasayama, and the rental guy were sent into another dimension due to a malfunction in the cats. Detective Sasayama should probably have never put that cat suit on. He mentioned buying it at a variety shop on Center Guy. That's your lead here. What the fuck? I feel a little guilty about having him go so out of his way for me more than he already has. Maybe I should deal with it myself. He looks a bit disappointed when I tell him that. I buy the necklace for 300,000 yen and leave the knick-knack shop, hauling the costume with me. But as I walk along, I start regretting my decision. I can't find a good place to throw that cat outfit away. The cat's dimension. Brother. Finally, I spot a convenience store that looks like it'll do just fine. One of the employees is out front, cleaning out the trash can. Several large garbage bags line the side of the road. Perfect. Maybe I can have him toss out the costume along with everything else. Excuse me, so I've got this old cat suit here. I figure it can't hurt to ask. Yeah, I know. The shop boy takes the costume from me. Taku Okado, 22-year-old getting by on part-time employment. Recently, after a number of employees quit in rapid succession, the owner hurriedly took on several new hires, but for some reason, instead of everyone chipping in on the cleaning, Okado always winds up stuck doing it. You're here to throw this thing out. I got it. He sounds wholly unsurprised. He accepts it so blithely that I actually feel bad. Been like this all morning, he says. I don't even care anymore. Just throw away what you need and be on your way, I guess. It's been like what all morning? I'm out here cleaning and people keep dumping trash on me. First it was this couple that up and threw a garbage bag at me. Achi Endo and Itomi Osawa. The two have just run into a girl called Kanan. After that, some homeless-looking guy came by, took off all his clothes and left. Detective Yuji Sasayama, from the Shibuya precinct. At the moment, Sasayama is searching for a costume for his next disguise. Like just now, some chubby girl tossed some empty cardboard boxes and a bunch of empty bottles. That must have been Shiri. She was probably drinking the burning hammer while she walked along. So when you came by just now with this thing, I knew right away. Yep, this again. I'm sorry. It's alright. 3 times, 4 times, what's the difference? He flashes a bright smile, but it's clearly insincere. Then he looks at me more closely. Huh. Aren't you the girlfriend of that dude who threw the bag of garbage at me? What? Nope, not me. Huh. Guess I'm misremembering then. Well, anyway, thanks for your help with this. I give the guy a bow. All right. Hano's partner had evidently been nearby. I'm making the arrest. He came into view on the monitor, walking casually. At some point, he ditched his anime nerd costume for a street dancer's getup. It didn't appear that all Karawan had noticed him yet. Bit by bit, Sasayama closed the distance. Not much further now. Kano's hand balled into a fist as he watched. Then something unexpected happened. Another man came running into view, right in the middle of the monitor. Teruo Toyama, while searching for Hana at Shibuya Gigo, he was located by a duo of debt collectors and fled the scene. Hana left Gigo to find him and ran into him here in Mario Yamacho. The pair are heading towards Koendori, trying to find a place to hide. There was no sound, but they could see that newcomer was shouting something. As all Karawan turned to look at the man, Sasayama launched himself like a bullet from a gun. In an instant, Detective and Perp were locked in a violent scuffle right there on the street. Kano swallowed a lump in his throat as he watched the struggle unfold. Earlier in the day, all Karawan had done a number on Sasayama, but this time the detective had the upper hand. He got a grip on all Karawan's neck and kneed him repeatedly. All Karawan tried desperately to bring Sasayama to the ground, but Sasayama braced himself and avoided the takedown. Then he shifted his stance and took all Karawan to the pavement with a spectacular hip throw. Yes! Kano clapped his hands together in excitement. Catching the perp in a scarf hold, Sasayama gets out his handcuffs. Technique in judo involves wrapping an arm around the opponent's neck while performing an upper body pin. Stanley, we should head to the scene, Kano said. He looked away from the monitor for a mere moment. When he looked back, Sasayama had released his hold and crumbled to the ground. What? Panicked, Kano stared at the image of his friend. There was something jutting up from Sasayama's abdomen. Zoom in! Kano cried frantically. The camera closed in on Sasayama. Now Kano could see exactly what he'd feared. Sasayama had been stabbed in the gut. Blood pooled on the pavement around him. Kano screamed, Sasayama! The camera showed several other detectives arriving at the scene, capturing all Karawan before he could escape. But Sasayama lay motionless. The pool of blood around him spread further and further across the pavement. Unable to look any longer, Kano rushed from the surveillance room. Wow, this is an even worse ending than the cat's dimension. At least there, Sasayama doesn't potentially die. What the fuck? So what am I missing here? I tried, yeah, Shinya Kano, the detective. Let me see. Oh, wait. I wonder. I believe I've tried the jumps so far. Maybe not. No, I haven't. Interesting. Minorikawa got his wallet out of his jacket to pay the driver. Oh no, Kimizuka said, waving a hand. Okay. Don't worry about the fare. Huh? Why not? There's still plenty left over from what you paid me earlier, sir. That's what I meant by special fare. That's right, he'd paid Kimizuka a whole 10,000 yen for taking him to Endo Electronics earlier. But, I mean, I'm not the sort of person to keep the change, as it were, Kimizuka said. Minorikawa felt a surge of pride at those words. You're my kind of guy, Kimizuka. A man on the job can always count on Hachiro Kimizuka's taxi. The driver grinned. Go on now, go. Thank you. I have a feeling we'll meet again. As Minorikawa entered the theater lobby, he saw a bunch of flower bouquets, patrons' gifts of appreciation. Among the names of senders were celebrities he recognized. The largest of the bouquets was sent by Koichi Nakamura, the secret society Chunsoft. The next largest came from Maru Taro Ishihara from the government organization Joy Art. Chunsoft. Give me 1 second here. What's Joy Art? Joy Art. So, Secret Society Chunsoft, you say? Following that were those from actress Barako Rose, popular scenario writer Ebisu Ipponmatsu, Tohoku Bus Tours Co., Limited, bus guide Kimiko Amo, professional baseball player Masa Narikio, the ventriloquist Shinshin, ukulele player Hawaii Matsuda, online TV critic Genzo Akitsu, and so on. Evidently, the Wandering Angels were a pretty popular acting troupe. Novice actor Takuya Amo, despite his nervousness, gave a credible performance as Shido as the production got underway, but as the show continued, his inexperience became apparent. He went on stage for the big wire action scene, having forgotten to attach himself to the rigging. Tozuka was quick to rush, acting on stage in the improvised role of assassin with an Edo accent #1, and fixing a rope to Amo's back during the confusion. People were setting out pamphlets and flyers out on a nearby table. There was a palpable tension in the air. The crew seemed skittish as they went about their work. "He's late!" someone shouted all of a sudden. It was a man over in one corner of the lobby, railing angrily to nobody in particular. Why the hell hasn't that journalist shown up yet for the interview? Looked like he'd been waiting on Minorikawa then. What's the deal? Pulling this while we're busy. Guess that's Shinosuke Orai. I've been busy myself, Minorikawa said, keeping his composure. Trust me, I know how it goes. Huh? Who the hell are you? I'm the guy you've been waiting for, Mr. Orai. The man glared at him. It's Orai, he said. Anyway, I'm Minorikawa. Sorry to keep you waiting. Though, really, a short wait is a small price to pay for the chance to be interviewed by me. Well, I hope you appreciate how valuable my time is, now that you're taking it, snapped Orai. Wow, someone sure has a high opinion of himself, Minorikawa replied. He marched up to Orai. Damn right I do, I'm Shinosuke Orai! The theater man got right up in Minorikawa's face. Like anyone even cares. A jolt of tension sparked between the two men. Then they kissed. Around this time, there's a similar jolt of tension between two other people, Kenji Osawa and Mamoru Tanaka. I beg your pardon, a woman interrupted, but Mr. Orai does have a schedule to keep. And who are you, miss? Sukozawa. I'm the producer. Well, listen, Sue. I'm in the middle of an interview here. Please don't interrupt. What? That's how you conduct an interview? That's right. This is how I roll. Look, whatever. Orai growled. Let's just do this already. Fine by me. The two men sat down at opposite sides of a table in the lobby. But Sukozawa spoke up again. Mr. Orai, don't forget the meeting you have after this. Yeah, handle that, would you? Minorikawa let out a derisive snort. It's like you're holding court, he said. Do people actually hang around you with that kind of attitude? You have no right to judge my acting troupe. Minorikawa straightened up his chair, mocking smile on his lips. Oh, so it's your acting troupe, huh? He said. Why not just play all the roles yourself? Heck, you could even be your own audience. How dare you? Orai rose to his feet and made to leave, but Sukozawa herded him back down into his chair. Minorikawa continued as if he hadn't heard. Just what is it you do anyway? He asked. Orai raised an incredulous eyebrow. You don't know? No, why should I? You came to an interview without knowing anything about who you were interviewing? Yep. That's it. Get out. Orai roared and pointed angrily toward the exit. How dare an unmannered clod like you come in here and waste my time? Hey, who's being unmannered now? I came all the way out here to hear your story, didn't I? Why don't you get out? Minorikawa pointed at the exit as well. Why the hell should I have to leave? Orai demanded. This is my house. Theater jargon for the theater itself. Specifically the main auditorium. Especially the main auditorium. Look, just get out. This time both yelled and pointed toward the exit in unison. Sukozawa quickly interposed herself between them, forcing a smile. Gentlemen, please calm down, she said. Then she turned to Minorikawa. You should be aware that Mr. Orai used to be a broadcast writer. Someone who writes for television or radio programs. A great show not only depends not only on the actor's performances, but on the skills of the broadcast writer. He's responsible for a lot of big hits. You don't need to mention that, Orai grumbled. Nonetheless, Sukozawa rattled off the names of several shows. Minorikawa did indeed recognize many of them. He murmured. So how come you're running a failing theater now? Failing? Orai went red in the face. I'm not wrong, am I? You are absolutely the rudest person I've ever met. What would a rank amateur like yourself know about theater? Orai's face was dark with rage, but Minorikawa didn't back down. Listen, this has nothing to do with how well your theater is or isn't doing, he snapped. The television world wouldn't accept you, so in order to retain your pride as an entertainer, you started doing theater. Isn't that so? Don't act like you know anything. I've staked my entire life on the theater. It seems as if Orai might throw a punch at any moment. Sure, a city theater might seem like small time compared to TV, but you get a lot more response from it. Response? Oh, now that sounds interesting. Darn right, Orai exclaimed. You can see it from up on stage. The audience, you can see their faces. There was a passion in Orai's voice now. You can really feel it. When the audience is enjoying themselves, you can feel that energy. You can't get that from doing television. Thinking back on it, now, my time spent working on TV, let's see what's a good analogy. It's like being handed a towel that's already damp. No, that's not right. Okay, so a better analogy would be, Without further preamble, Ori began thinking about his tribulations back in his broadcast writer days. Minorikawa smiled inwardly. The interview ended promptly after 15 minutes, the time that had been promised. Both men emerged from it as if from a daze. Minorikawa found himself staring Ori in the face, shaking him by the hand. So, what kind of story did I just get? He asked, speaking half to himself. Wait, so what kind of story did I just get? He asked, speaking half to himself. You heard about one man and his life. And I have to admit, it was a good interview. Thanks. You have my gratitude. With a satisfied smile, Minorikawa closed his notebook. Right, glad to hear that then. Ori inclined his head, looking a bit bewildered. A flustered Tsukuzawa interrupted. Mr. Minorikawa, wasn't this interview for a piece about the performance? Huh? Minorikawa blinked. It's just that you were only asking Mr. Ori and not about the performance itself, Tsukuzawa said. Oh, I see what you mean. Actually, I came here for a piece I'm gonna be writing called Where Are They Now? Washed Up Broadcast Writer Showcase. Washed up? Ori was red in the face all over again. You bastard, how dare you? Forget everything I just told you. I do not give you my permission to use it in your magazine. You're too late. What? I've already heard your whole story. You should be grateful that I'll be writing a piece on it. You bastard. With a wild look in his eyes, Ori snatched up a hammer. The stage crew had left near. Oh, fuck. Ouch! I haven't even hit you yet. Ori waved the hammer menacingly. But the attack came to a sudden halt as a ringtone startled him out of his fury. Hold on a moment, Minorikawa said, brightly. I have to take this. He whipped out his cell phone. Hello, Minorikawa speaking. This is Osawa. Wow, he had called back a lot sooner than Minorikawa had expected. Have your daughters come home then? No. Actually, there's a favor I'd like to ask you. A favor? Minorikawa thought back to his visit to the Osawa residence. The drawn curtains, the stricken look on Osawa's face. Minorikawa's instincts had sensed something significant going on. Apparently getting the full story wasn't going to come without some cost. Favor, huh? Is it something urgent? I'll pay whatever I have to. I just need you to look into something as quickly as possible. His voice had the telltale desperation of a man who'd been backed into a corner. Alright, Minorikawa said. I can help you out for a little while. Osawa hurriedly explained what he was after. The request was a strange one. He wanted Minorikawa to look into a scandalous article that 4-star general gossip had run about him in the past. What makes this so important? Do I have to say? I mean, you're asking me to look into something without explaining anything. He eyed Ori, lurking nearby with obvious irritation. Minorikawa would need to calm down the erstwhile broadcast writer, or else his interview really would be for naught. He decided to bluff both men at the same time. Let me just say one thing, he said into the phone. He made sure he spoke loud and clear so that Ori would overhear. I want to tell the world this story. No, I need to tell it. If I don't feel that way about something, no amount of money in the world will get me to write an article on it. That's my pride as a writer at work. Minorikawa could see Ori's aura of rage fading as he listened. The theater man looked surprised. Ugh. Meanwhile, Osawa had decided to open up a bit. Alright, he said. Can't share all the details, but... Okay, he's in a talkative mood now. Good job, Minorikawa. See, this is going fine. The power balance of the entire world might be at stake here, Osawa continued. And I mean that quite literally. I can tell you more after you're done investigating. Wait, was he serious? How could the world's balance of power hinge on looking into some alleged marital affair? It was so absurd that Minorikawa had to fight the urge to burst out laughing. A person would need to be out of his mind to believe a story like that. But Minorikawa wasn't the average person. And sometimes the truth was so ridiculous, it really was stranger than fiction. Osawa wasn't lying. Minorikawa's instincts told him that much. All right, he said. I'll check the editing department's notes from back then. Minorikawa felt his excitement building. Things were getting really interesting. For the moment, he nearly forgot Toyama and his troubles. When he ended the call, Orai approached him and extended his hand. Listen, your methods might be a little extreme, but I can tell you take pride in your work. Of course I do. I'm sorry for getting so worked up. I bet you'd write a fine article about me, so please, Mr. Minorikawa, let the world know about me and my half-lived life. Minorikawa took the offered hand and shook it. Leave it to me. Once I'm done with it, you won't be just some washed-up nobody anymore, Mr. Orai. It's Orai. Minorikawa grinned. Minorikawa rushed out of the theater. He completed all of the interviews that he could get done before 4 o'clock. Now he had an hour left to write it all up to convince the folks from the loan company that the gossip could stay afloat. Ah! He let out a roar, psyching himself up for the final push. And now... on to... Wait. On to here. Oh, wait. Wrong button. Osawa picked up his cell phone and dialed Tanaka's number. The phone rang several times. He listened grimly to the empty mechanical sound, preparing himself for disappointment. What is it? Tanaka's voice sounded coldly in Osawa's ear. The tension was electric. Osawa felt a surge of outrage. He wanted to scream. But he took a deep breath and managed to maintain control. Tanaka? Where are you? Is Maria all right? Tanaka did not reply. The police told me. They said you were connected to the kidnapping. A soft chuckle came from the other end of the line. Well, the police sure do know how to do their jobs. Tanaka's tone was unapologetic. He sounded nothing like the man Osawa thought he knew so well. Why would you do this? Money? Are you having money troubles? Money? Tanaka replied. I suppose that's part of it. Honestly, I doubt you'd understand. Do you have any idea what it's been like for me doing our research together? You're always the one who takes center stage. The fruits of our success are all yours, even though you couldn't have done any of it without me. The more he said, the more vitriol seeped into his words. Osawa's hand trembled as he clutched the phone. A taker can never understand how it feels to be taken from. You've hoarded so many things to yourself, so I'm taking some of them back. And with that, he hung up. Hey! Tanaka! Osawa dialed the number again, but Tanaka didn't pick up. Osawa racked his brain, thinking back on how Tanaka had been acting earlier that day. Had there been anything unusual? Any clue at all, no matter how small? If he could find some hint, maybe he'd be able to find Maria and Hitomi. That was it! I had been suspicious of Tanaka all along, so much so that she'd planted a bug on him hidden in a tie clip. Her suspicions must have been pretty strong. Wait. Sawa recalled what Kajiwara had said. But still, if she is that worried, giving a tie clip as a gift is a bit... Words struck Osawa as odd when he first heard them. I had never given him a tie clip. His heart gave a heavy throb in his chest. It couldn't be. No, it was impossible. That article from the 4-star general gossip crept back into his mind. The article had talked about a man I had dated before he married Osawa. The man's identity was never revealed. Would it have been Tanaka? Ordered so many things to yourself, so I'm taking some of them back. Tanaka's cold words took on a new depth of meaning. Osawa felt the foundations of his life begin to crumble. Were Tanaka and I accomplices in all of this? No. Wait. Just calm down. Couldn't let himself jump to conclusions. He needed to be more level-headed. Everything depended on it. If the two really were accomplices, why would I have planted a bug on Tanaka? What purpose would that serve? What could it mean? It was no use. Osawa couldn't think of how that made sense. First things first, he needed to establish what the relationship between I and Tanaka really was. Once he'd figured that out, he'd be able to get a better handle on the situation. Obviously, he couldn't just go and ask Aya directly. If she really were involved in all of this, she certainly wouldn't tell him the truth. Osawa thought back to the business card he tossed into the trash. He didn't relish the thought of getting help from that scavenging hyena, but now was no time to be picky. If he wasn't able to leave the house, he needed someone else to do some investigating for him. A freelance writer, Minoru Morikawa. He was Osawa's only hope. Oh shit. So that just ends there for him. Oh shit. Oh boy. Oh, I like how her clothes changed again as well. That's cute. So, wow, this story has taken some pretty interesting turns. Some pretty interesting connections, some like that one bit with Pretty Honey being Shizuo. That's really funny. Him posing as a 19-year-old girl on social media. That's pretty good. And then also the whole sequence with Maria and Achi, them meeting and like getting separated and then, you know, like him thinking that she's Hitomi. That whole sequence was fun. So, yes, I think I'm gonna end things off here for the night. Thank you all so very much for watching. for staying with me for this adventure. And I hope to see you in the next one, whenever that is. Take care, everybody, and I hope you all have a great night in the meantime. Bye-bye.